Despite how it sometimes comes across, WWE is a highly planned, tightly scripted spectacle that generally is worked down to the smallest detail. Injuries are uncontrollable for the most part. They can be managed, yes, and precautions can be taken, but sometimes the unavoidable happens and a wrestler gets hurt. Sometimes it's during a match, sometimes it's as a result of a match, and sometimes it's a long-term injury that can be career-threatening. This list is a mix of misery, with all three of these injury scenarios represented. The thing is, despite their unpleasantness, they all had the spin-off effect of creating great, memorable matches either at the time or as a consequence of the injury. I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture, and these are 10 awful injuries which led to amazing WWE matches. Number 10, Sabu almost bleeds to death. Terry Funk doesn't fare much better. Since WWE has absorbed ECW's properties, and before you go all caps blazing into the comment section, I'm going to argue this one's okay to include. Sabu and Funk are two of the most extreme wrestlers of all time, willing to put themselves through almost anything for the sake of the art. Probably the epitome of this attitude was their no-ropes barbed wire match at the Born to be Wired pay-per-view back in 1997. Both ended up covered in cuts and bleeding heavily. Sabu at one point missed with a splash and ripped his left bicep open with a 10-inch gash that he simply taped up with trainer's tape, as you do. Despite the massive blood loss and what must have been an incredibly painful injury, Sabu finished the match and pinned Funk to win the ECW Championship. By the end, both Funk and Sabu were covered in so much barbed wire that clothes were shredded, and Sabu couldn't properly put Funk's shoulders on the mat because of it. Number 9, Shawn Michaels crushes his back, takes 4 years off, and returns for his best run. At the Royal Rumble 1998, Michaels fought The Undertaker in a casket match for the WWF title. During the match, Taker slammed Michaels against the casket with such force that it herniated 2 discs and crushed a third in Michaels' back. Although he finished the match, the injuries were substantial, which led to Michaels abusing painkillers and ultimately calling it quits after losing to Stone Cold at that year's WrestleMania, truly ushering in the Attitude Era.
What about the Attitude Era?
Michaels, however, would be back. In 2002, he returned to wrestling for 8 more glorious years, during which time he changed his style to focus on more storytelling and emotion than being a high-flying sexy boy. He had several of the best matches of his career during this run, including retiring Ric Flair, hard-fought personal battles with Triple H, and 2 legendary WrestleMania matches with The Undertaker. Were it not for this injury and Michaels' dedication to not only healing but getting clean and sober, you may never have seen these incredible matches. Number 8, Cena tears his entire pectoral muscle, but heals like Wolverine in just 4 months. John Cena has often been portrayed as a larger-than-life figure, a superhero. During much of his career, he's been booed for it and not embraced by a certain sector of fans. But then he goes and does something like heal from a complete pectoral muscle tear in 4 bloody months. On the 1st of October 2007 edition of Monday Night Raw, Cena tore his whole pec away from the bone during a match against Mr. Kennedy. Then, at the 2008 Royal Rumble, just 4 months later, we were down to the 30th entrant. As the countdown ended, the familiar horn intro of Cena's music played, and the lid came off of MSG. Even Cena's detractors were surprised into cheering for the fact that it was John freaking Cena back and in the Royal Rumble. Cena fan or not, that was a damn fine moment in WWE history. Number 7, Cesaro has 2 teeth pushed up into his gums, still finishes the best match of the night. At No Mercy 2017, during a match with Sheamus against The Shield, Dean Ambrose slingshot Cesaro into a ring post. It was so loud you could actually hear the impact, and blood was immediately visible coming from Cesaro's mouth. He tagged Sheamus in, took a rest in the corner, and after the ringside dog took a quick look at his teeth, continued the match. You see, Cesaro's teeth weren't knocked out, as we all assumed. Oh no, they were knocked into his gums. Ugh. Despite having Cena versus Reigns and Lesnar versus Strowman also on the card, this match with Cesaro gutting it out stole the night and spoke volumes about the tenacity of the Swiss cyborg, not to mention the other 3 men who improvised around his injury. Never show me that picture again. Number 6, Stone Cold takes a stinger and starts on a multi-year path of destruction. During an infamous piledriver tombstone reversal spot, Owen Hart placed Austin too low and dropped him headfirst onto the mat, causing a stinger, partial paralysis, and numbness of body parts. Now, Austin would recover, but his neck and spine would never be the same again. However, the real-life event changed the trajectory of Austin's career. He became more of a brawler and concurrently more of a pain in Vince McMahon's ass. While he healed, his anti-authority character grew through skits and promos, while the Miss McMahon character developed as Vince took harsher and harsher steps to keep Austin out of the spotlight. This led to some of the best matches of the Attitude Era, as Austin took on all comers, revolutionized WWE. Number 5, Triple H tears his quad, but finishes perhaps the best match on Raw ever. Ever! Triple H, despite all of his mid-2000s faults, is tough. This was proven when he not only tore the quad muscle off the bloody bone during a match, but finished it too. And not just any match, but one that is considered one of the best, if not the best, to ever appear on Raw. Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit were primed to take on the two-man power trip of Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H for the tag team titles. Fans were desperate to see the power trip be taken down by these two Canadians, with the crowd as hot as possible for a non-pay-per-view match. Towards the end of the match, Triple H dove into the ring to break up the walls of Jericho on Austin, and in doing so, tore his quad. Realizing immediately he was screwed, also knowing the match was on fire, Triple H rolled out of the ring and figuring, what else could happen, let Jericho put him in the walls on the announce table. God. Remarkably, after the hold, Triple H crawled back into the ring with a sledgehammer, but accidentally hit Austin with it, letting Jericho roll up Austin for the win. The place went ballistic, and Triple H, understandably, then took 8 months off to heal. Number 4, Bray Wyatt's misery is our game. TLC 2017 was supposed to feature Bray Wyatt versus what I can only guess was going to be Pumpkin Finn Balor. Due to an undisclosed medical issue, what we got instead was an unexpected delight of a match between two of the best in the world. While the logic of two wrestlers on different brands and no build-up makes no sense, quite frankly, no one cared. It was an opportunity to see two fantastic wrestlers who had never squared off finally do so. And Styles and Balor didn't disappoint. A high-flying, hard-hitting match between two amazing workers who hit their classic moves and thrilled the fans followed. To cap off the match, Balor and Styles, who had both been leaders of the Bullet Club pre-WWE, exchanged the too sweet hand gesture as a show of respect and to get a fantastic pop. Number 3, Becky Lynch suffers a broken nose, solidifies her place as the man. By the time of Survivor Series 2018, Becky Lynch was riding a rocket after her fantastic heel turn on Charlotte Flair at SummerSlam. With the 1-month brand supremacy that WWE seemingly creates every year for Survivor Series in full effect, red versus blue, Becky and the other SmackDown women invaded Raw. After a backstage ambush of Ronda Rousey, Lynch's presumed Survivor Series opponent, Lynch led her team to the ring to take the fight to Team Raw. At some point during the chaos, Becky caught a nasty backhand from Nia Jax, immediately drawing blood from Becky's broken nose, or exploded face, as WWE seemed to explain it then. It would also cause a concussion that would legitimately pull her from Survivor Series, sending fans into a fury. Over the next few months, Lynch and Rousey would scuffle repeatedly, leading to Lynch being a surprise entrant in the 2019 Royal Rumble, which she won, of course, and chose to face Rousey. On the way to Mania, Lynch had a series of awesome Stone Cold-like incidents with the Authority, including getting suspended by Vince and having to earn her Mania spot back in what would now be a three-way between Lynch, Rousey, and Charlotte Flair. Those few months cemented Lynch's place as a top draw and left us an iconic image of a bloodied warrior. Number 2, Mick Foley damn near dies doing what he loves. Mick Foley is one of the most beloved wrestlers of the Attitude Era, known not only for his creative and death-defying matches, but for the unbelievable toughness that got him through them. It's easy to argue that his most memorable injuries came during his Hell in a Cell match at King of the Ring 1998, during his now legendary match with The Undertaker. The first came after both men climbed the cell and then, in a scripted spot, Taker threw Foley off the cage. where he landed on an announce table. Foley dislocated his shoulder, punctuated by Jim Ross's heartfelt assertions that Mick was broken in half. Incredibly, Foley got back up and he and Taker climbed the cage again, and this time, after being chokeslammed, Foley crashed through the roof of the cage, falling to the ring below onto a chair. This fall wasn't planned, and the look on Taker's face as he stares down at Foley speaks volumes. Despite legitimately looking, dead, Foley only suffered concussion, 2 lost teeth, dislocated jaw, bruised kidney, and a hole in his lip. Not bad for a day's work. Unbelievably, Foley got up again and finished the match by being chokeslammed onto hundreds of thumbtacks and then pinned. The match cemented both men as legends thanks to Foley's selflessness and he's just bonkers, isn't he? Number 1. Daniel Bryan makes a miracle return from concussions and goes on to do incredible heel work. A few months after his legendary WrestleMania 30 victory, Daniel Bryan required neck surgery and was taken off TV. It was an awful time to be a wrestling fan. Yes, he appeared at the 2015 Royal Rumble, but was quickly eliminated, throwing the assembled crowd into a rage for the rest of the match. Bryan won the Intercontinental title at that year's WrestleMania, only to then drop that title for medical reasons within a few months. In February 2016, Bryan delivered a heartfelt and heartbreaking speech telling the world he was retiring because of multiple concussions. In a shock turn, though, roughly 2 years later, Bryan returned, cleared to wrestle, and worked up to a fantastic heel turn for the rest of 2018 as the new Daniel Bryan. He did some of the best work of his career in this time, berating fans for being non-environmentally friendly and creating a new and amazing organic belt. Daniel Bryan wrestling again was great. Daniel Bryan wrestling as a scenery-chewing heel was somehow even better. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Let us know in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Watch there. Follow me at Adam Wilborn. Thanks for watching. I've been Adam from What Culture, and I'll see you soon.